Soviet Union, who were often mistreated and have few places to worship safely. The JDL popularized the phrase "never again," referring to the Holocaust. It became the rallying cry.
Is to kind of
never
represent
Jews
you do it
as,
somebody. A people that can defend themselves.
This is Natasha Roth-Roland again.
And not like people who quote-unquote went like sheep during the Holocaust.
The JDL's founder and leader was a 35-year-old rabbi from Brooklyn, Meir Kahane.
We will do exactly what we have been doing until every Jew within the USSR who wants to go free will be free.
He draws heavily from Black power and thinking about, Jewish power in the United States and how that should function.
Sarah Yael Hirshhorn again.
And he becomes kind of a cult figure in New York, with his own Jewish activist scene.
Meir Kahane was born in Brooklyn in 1932 in a tight-knit Jewish family. His father was a rabbi. The idea of Zionism, that Jews should have their homeland in Palestine, was a part of his life from a young age. But his family had a particular interpretation of Zionism that would shape his future.
He grows up in a revisionist Zionist home in America.
Revisionist Zionism is the belief that Israel should exist an exclusively Jewish state on both sides of the Jordan River. Official borders include the Strip, which are internationally recognized Palestinian lands. As a teenager, Kahane became a militant activist after several Brooklyn synagogues were graffitied with swastikas.
In his teenage years, he joined an organization called Beitar. Beitar emulated fascist movements that were around it in the interwar period in Europe, when fascism really sprung up. And when I say emulated, I mean in terms of their aesthetics. They wore brown shirts. They kind of glorified militarism and youth and violence, very, very anti-left, anti-socialist, and they kind of pioneered this vision of Greater Israel going in beyond the West Bank and kind of into the rest of the Middle East. So he subscribes to that ideology.
Those who commit violence against Jews within their borders can fully expect, and rightfully so, violence in return.
The Jewish Defense League kind of graduates, if you will, into terrorism. They start attacking Soviet targets in New York and Arab targets in New York because of anti-Semitism in the Soviet Union against Jews and because of obviously the Israel-Palestine conflict as well.
3 members of the militant Jewish Defense League, including Meir Kahane, pleaded guilty today to charges of conspiring to build explosives and transport them across state lines. Kahane admitted to the court he directed the making of bombs because he wanted to illustrate what effects bombs have.
In the writing on the wall, in 1971, Kahane fled to Israel.
He's essentially outlining his legal troubles in New York.
He was just fled after the Six-Day War, a time where Israel was unofficially expanding its borders, with citizens moving into the occupied West Bank and Gaza, building communities, towns, suburbs, settlements.
He arrives in Israel at a time when the religious far right in the country is really taking off because of that. Because there is this perception that this victory in the Six-Day War and the fact that Israelis were able to go back to these incredibly important religious sites that were scattered throughout the West Bank, from Hebron to parts of East Jerusalem.
Kahane continued his activism in Israel, but he also formed his own political party.
He establishes a political party called Kach, which means thus, which has basically a pretty openly fascist political manifesto that it campaigns on.
I've always said that Western democracy is incompatible with Zionism.
He wants a theocracy. Basically, he wants complete segregation between Jews and Arabs from separate beaches, separate schools. He wants to criminalize sexual and romantic relationships between Jews and Palestinians.
Jewish girls, 4,000 Jewish women today married to Muslims.
Tragedy! What a Nazi!
Israel are overwhelmingly Jewish. Pimps are overwhelmingly Arabs.
What a fucking racist Nazi.
So they stood for Jewish militancy and deriding the secular Zionism Zionist tradition for its lack of.
They stood for doing unto others what Nazis did unto them.
Representing the true spirit of Judaism.
No guilt. The country is ours, every inch of it, every centimeter of it. No guilt. It's our country. It's not theirs. There is no Palestine, no Palestinians. There never was. There never will be. They're Arabs. They let them go enjoy.
This is all hate speech from a Nazi, Jewish Defense League terrorist founder. But it's for educational purposes only, to expose these Nazis.
The exact people Kahana
There's
opposed.
some thanks, water commies.
A political earthquake would happen in Israel.
Last night, conservative Likud party, headed by Menachem Begin, swept to victory. Begin defeated Shimon Peres and his Labor Party, which has dominated Israeli politics for 29 years.
So 1977 was, without doubt, within Israeli politics.
I think that was Susan Sandberg, who they dedicated a whole week of programming to her passing. Instead of talking about Trump's terrorist attack on the White House, destroying half the White House, for which we should, hello Astar, we should be overthrowing Trump and arresting every executive who voted for Trump or supported Trump's terrorist attack on the White House, seizing every company that supported Trump's terrorist attack on the White House, finishing Osama bin Laden's plan from 20 years ago.
The right of the Jewish people to the land of Israel is eternal and indisputable, and is linked with the right to security and peace. Therefore,
sounds like you're full of shit because I just disputed it.
Which is the biblical name for the West Bank that's used by
not yours.
Israelis who claim the
hands
territory,
off.
will not be handed
No
to
means
any
no.
foreign administration. Between the sea and the Jordan, there will only be.
Thanks, Astar. Always nice to have your support.
Begin adamantly opposes the return of the occupied West Bank to Arab control.
We're just listening to these Nazi Zionists, not Zionists, not Zionists. Listen to the history of not Zionism.
Whose families originally came from the Middle East and North Africa. A group who'd long felt oppressed by Israeli society and excluded from its politics.
These were Jews who came from Arab lands and then saw the enmity of the Arab countries, and many of them were very attracted to hawkish ideas about the way Zionism should oppose Arab nationalism and Arab power, because they frankly had fled the Arab world because of that and saw Begin's party as being a place where maybe they belonged. So Begin was able to mobilize them, and it really made a huge difference in Israeli politics.
With this major victory in 1977, the Likud party had given voice to right-wing views that had long been on the outside looking in.
There was a shift in terms of how these parties talked about what to do with the Palestinians in their midst. Particularly Likud had a much more direct way of talking about settlement.
This is what the 1977 Likud party platform says about settlements. Settlement, both urban and rural, in all parts of the land of Israel, is the focal point of the Zionist effort to redeem the country, to maintain vital security areas, and serves as a reservoir of strength and inspiration for the renewal
Hey, Outlaw.
of the pioneering spirit.
Just streaming some leaves in this history of Nazism in
take it upon
Israel.
themselves to really push deeper and deeper into the West Bank and to settle areas that the Labour government initially wouldn't.
Generally, because of Menachem Begin's hawkish orientation and belief that peace with the Arab world was not going to come about soon, and in any case it would
He
be
didn't
valuable
want peace with the
down
Arab
the
world,
road,
did he?
perhaps to trade land for peace. Begin himself was able to institutionalize these ideas in ways that hadn't been part of the Israeli agenda before.
The emergence of a right-wing government is seen by many in the revisionist Zionist community as a major victory. But Mirko
Loss for
was
humanity.
skeptical. He continued to push his extreme views, and in 1979,
I gotta shut it down. I'm about to
Begin
enter a bad
signed
spot.
peace with
Thanks,
Egypt
though.
and started to entertain compromises with the Palestinians.